Frank, we never trust all the shop as Minister of Finance. Exit now. I will start another business about 3 years later called Bunting Investments, which is on the stock exchange.
Ozymandias, a poem by Percy Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and snare of cold command tell that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty and despair. Nothing beside remains round the decay of that colossal wreck. Boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away." Hello everyone, welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep me company as usual. To my faithful viewers and my subscribers, welcome back. You know, you're always here with me and I'm very grateful and thankful. If you're here with me for the first time, welcome and don't be a stranger. Please everyone, if you have not yet subscribed, please do so. And if you enjoy the video, and I'm sure you will, please give it a thumbs up so I can be encouraged. Also, if you have comments, and I'm sure you do because we are Jamaican, you know, we love to talk and make everybody know what we think about things. So please leave your comments in the comment section. You're welcome. As well as share this video. Once again, I thank you for joining me. And you must be wondering, then when Michelle, she up to now? Ozymandias, what the dickens is that? Well, that happens to be the Greek name for a pharaoh that the Europeans called Ramesses II. Ramesses had one long name, it's about 29 words. So therefore, they just shorten it up and give him the name that they feel like give him. And Percy Shelley was a British poet who died tragically in Italy. Now, why am I reading for you this poem? Because Ozymandias happens to be the name of a company and a trust company, or not trust company, a trust that was named after Ozymandias by none other than my good friend, my favorite beating stick. I don't know what you want to call him, but it is a company that was set up in the Cayman Islands by Peter Murcott Bunting, and it was set up to manage a trust, I suppose, for his family, and that's very commendable. Congratulations. Are we going to give him a clap? Now, why is it though that I read the poem? Because I wondered, of all the things you could call a trust with, set up to benefit your family, or your daughter and your son, and I do believe the young lady called you what is his ex-wife. I wondered what this means and what is the connection between Shelley and Bunting. And so I went and looked it up, only to find that Mr. Shelley is a very interesting man. Shelley was born in 1792, and you will remember the writer who wrote Frankenstein, Mary Shelley, her husband. And he died in Italy in a boat accident. The boat he was in sank. He was a man who had some very strident political views for the time. He advocated for Catholic emancipation. I suppose he meant emancipation from the Catholic Church. He advocated for republicanism, reform to the parliamentary system, the extension of the franchise. I imagine that is the right to vote, freedom of speech, and peaceful assembly. And he also advocated for an end to aristocratic and clerical privilege. This is all in Britain, you know. This is weird because he's from Britain, right? He also wanted more equal distribution of income and wealth. I mean, you're talking about the early 1800s. So he was really a man, you know, that was before his time. All of what he advocated for came eventually in the 20th century, the last century. He advocated privately, of course, because, you know, if him go up in the mouth and talk too much about these things, he could be prosecuted, right, for what they call at the time seditious libel. Furthermore, he didn't want to alienate his friends and his political allies. So he more or less spoke stridently in private, but was more moderate in his utterances publicly. And of course, he had a license to express himself in his poems. In some respects, he's being imitated by Bunting, because it's the same thing with Bunting in the PNP too. He had his views under the other leaders. He had his group that he formed, and there he expressed himself. But outwardly and publicly, he was putting on a different show. So you see why Bunting would be so admiring of this gentleman. Let me go on. He also advocated for non-violent resistance. And it was the French Revolution that took place. You remember that? When the people then get vexed and start to whip off the head of all the people who were loyalists and royalists. You remember that? Yes, man, the people, and it gone real bad. So because it was a violent uprising, it led, he believed, to the rise of Napoleon and what he called military despotism. So he believed that is what violent protests lead to, and therefore he was of the view that a more peaceful resistance or non-violent resistance is what was required. I do believe that Bunting is not necessarily a violent man. I don't think so. I think he rather uses his money and his skill and ability and manipulation to get what he wants. Another characteristic of Mr. Shelley is that he was an avowed atheist. You hear that? He was an avowed atheist, influenced by another writer, Holbach. I'm not quite sure if he is a poet as well or simply a writer. His atheism was an important element of his political radicalism, and he saw organized religion as intricately linked to social oppression. So he believed that organized religion is not about bringing people to Jesus, but instead, or Allah, but instead it is a source or an instrument for an oppression of the people. That's what he believed. Now, is Mr. Bunting an atheist? I would not be surprised. Shelley also advocated for free love, which seems to be right up Bunting Street. Or from what I hear, he's a man very free with his own love. And again, Shelley is influenced by the works of other persons, other writers, in his views. He believed that sexual connection, people having sex together, should be free among those who loved each other. So he's saying once you love each other, you shouldn't be restricted by this business of marriage, which he considered. He considered marriage as a device more studiously hostile to human happiness, right? He thinks that marriage is a hostile institution to the happiness of people. And what we should do when we want to have sex with one another, we should just, and we in love, that should be it. Shouldn't have any other requirements other than being in love. And that the relationship should continue for as long as the love continues. That was his view. He believed that love should also be free and not be subject to obedience, jealousy, and fear. Perhaps Murcott agrees with him as well. He then eventually decided that meat eating was not for him, so he converted to a vegetarian diet in 1812. That's about when he was maybe about 20, and he sustained it with a few lapses from time to time. And many of you may not know, but Peter Murcott Bunting has, late in life, I understand, given to vegetarianism as well, which is why I was looking so scrawny and meager the other day, and I hear him not looking so good these days. But you know, he's getting older. He's supposed to be 64 this year, so that sort of thing would happen to you. So all in all, what it is that we discovered about Murcott, because I like when Bunting give us these little clues as to his own ideas, beliefs, and where he gets all these ideas and beliefs from. Because even with being a vegetarian, Shelley did not just come up with it because he thought it is something that is good. Almost everything that I've read was influenced by somebody else. He had no mind of his own. That is what Percy Shelley is showing here. He had no mind of his own, no real conviction, but when he becomes convicted on something, run with it like hell. It's the same qualities that we see of Peter Murcott Bunting. He's not a man, apparently, with a mind of his own. And he is influenced by some rather strange people in the past. You will recall him talking about Machiavellian master stroke. I will tell you about that Machiavellian fellow again. But Niccolo Machiavelli was a master at manipulation. And clearly Bunting is a great admirer of such a person. Here he is again. He must have found that poem somewhere, maybe when he was at school. Maybe he likes poetry. And something about the poem Ozymandias appealed to him no end, that he should feel when he was to give his trust fund a name, that he should use it. And I wonder what it is about the poem that appealed to him so well. You know, it is really talking about the Pharaoh, who was one of Africa's greatest kings and greatest king of what is being called Egypt, ancient Egypt in those days. And this is really a mockery. I see it as a mockery because it is speaking of him as, you know, being mighty, and then he was brought low, and all of his achievements is now in rack and ruin. I doubt that that was what Bunting was establishing that trust for it to become rack and ruin. And so I cotton on to something, and I think that this is perhaps what appealed to him the greatest. When the traveler said that he saw on the pedestal, and on the pedestal these words appear, the pedestal of the king, what happened was they found a bust, or they found a statue of Ramesses II in the desert, but it was broken in two, and the pedestal had the words on it. Of course, it wasn't Ozymandias, because you know that wasn't his name. That's a Greek name for him. And Shelley never actually saw the bust himself. He was just writing a poem about what he heard about it. And then, so he said, in the words of the traveler, "My name is Ozymandias, King of kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. No thing beside remains, round and decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Is it possible that the reference to Ozymandias as a king of kings, and he asking men both mighty and low to look at his handiwork, is that what appealed to Bunting about this poem? No thing remained except, of course, that statue of the Pharaoh. It stood the test of time. Is this how he sees himself? As a king of kings who will stand the test of time? No matter what he does, what he destroys, he will remain. Is that what that is about? Well, that seems to have been what he was attempting to live up to when he did what he did to the People's National Party, its membership and the people of this country. Is it that he believed that he will be able to rise on the shoulders of the good comrades with manipulations and his money to the heights of being king of kings, like Ramesses the Great was? Is that it? Is that why he was so admirable and admiring of this poet and his poem, Ozymandias? That he decided to make this poem an inspiration for his future ventures. The question is, does he have what it takes to be a king of kings? Yes, he may be able to manipulate the comrades because they are so blinded by party that they do not see anything else, and he may well find himself in Jamaica House. But I anticipate he will be there as nothing else but a visitor for the rest of his life. Surely a fitting end to a most uninspiring, foolish, egotistic narcissist like Peter Bunting, a man of an exceedingly weak intellect, but apparently he doesn't know it. I mean, when you talk about delusion of grandeur, see Peter Bunting. We needn't waste time and look any further for a perfect example. He will have you believe, he and Mark Goling, that they are these genius in business, when the fact is they are no such thing. No such thing at all. Never was. The major part of their wealth, which they were able to garner through daring Bunting and Golding, was due largely to Peter Bunting's political connections in the 1990s. And as you can hear from Mark Golding's clip, no sooner than the government changed in 2007 that they decided to pull up shop, draw brakes, and sell out and move into another business. That is because they knew that these favors that they were granted apparently was not going to be continued with the Labour Party government. And so it would not have made any sense for them to continue. I believe they saw the writing on the wall, and so they started to make their arrangements to sell the business and get into something else. Now that they're into something else, it means they have to compete, at least for the past 8 years, they have to compete with other businesses in order to make a profit. No government favors are there waiting for them. And it is in this situation where they are required now to compete that they are found wanting. Let's now take a look at proven investments to see what lessons we may learn about the business acumen of Bunting and Golding. Is it as they would have us believe, or is it something else? One of the first things I want to bring to your attention is this very curious thing that I've noticed it for quite some time, and I've been busting my brain over it in wonderment. if there's such a word. It is the fact that both Bunting and Golding, some of his partners or his business associates, how much it is that they are willing to let the whole world know that they are in politics, they have an interest in politics, and they want to have a controlling interest, if they can, of this country. It is usual for persons who are, involved in politics to keep it secret from the rest of the world. They claim it's because they're fearful that their association with a particular political party may harm their business, so they keep it to themselves. Or if they even assist one party, they also share or donate as well to the next party. So that is how people are. They shy away from the association with politics. Now we know we have Douglas O'Rain, I think, at one point, and now we have Webby in the Senate. But even though they are on the JLP ticket, or Webby is, Don Webby, he's more or less seen as a kind of an independent, as a businessman representing business interests, even though he's on the JLP's ticket. I do believe the PNP sometimes gets persons from the private sector, from elsewhere, that is not known or involved in politics up front, and put in the Senate as well, to give it a kind of a balance of some sorts, balance of interests. But these guys are going out of their ways to let everybody know that, we are into politics, we are in this position and that position, as if it is something that they believe will be beneficial to their business. And it made me wonder, in what way would politics be beneficial to Proven? How is it that they anticipate and expect that by saying that they're involved in politics and striving to be leader of this country, do they anticipate and expect that business-wise Proven will be beneficial? And it occurred to me, these guys often target a market. When you read about the buildings that they're putting up, these investments, you will hear them speak of targeting a particular market. So they'll build Braemar, and they'll tell you that Braemar Avenue apartment complex is geared at persons who are seeking investments. They'll tell you that the one in St. Anne, the one in Northwest, I do believe, is geared towards those persons who are, retired, and persons from the diaspora who may want to come back home and live in these apartments and enjoy the rest of their lives. So they have a target market. When Bunting and Golding speak about their political careers, is there a market, a target market that they are speaking to? Who are they speaking to? And I wonder about that. I wonder about it, especially when you take into account just where Jamaica is said to fall, or the perception of Jamaica on the Transparency International Corruption Index, Corruption Perceptions Index. We are at number 44 out of 100, and we rank 69. And that, for me, putting that out, saying that Jamaica is one of the most corrupt places, well, not as corrupt as some places, thank goodness, but quite corrupt. That is, whether we want to believe it or not, and it's like an advertisement for all of the corrupt people that are around the world that's looking for some place like Jamaica to come and do business, because they can make a killing if only they can drop some money here and there. And I wonder if Bunting and Golding's target audience are persons who are seeking to make a killing. Maybe they're not corrupt themselves, but they see an opportunity to make a killing. Now, why do I say so? I want you to consider this. If we are unable to uproot these two capitalist hustlers out of the People's National Party before the next election, and they remain and you lose your mind and you put them in Jamaica House, I want you to think about this. They would become the supreme leaders of government in this country. And it is they who will be making appointments to all the boards, the Governor General, they can have him changed, and to the ministries, they'll be creating ministries. The various services commission, they will have an influence therefore in everything that occurs in this country. And they would also be the ones who would, whether directly or indirectly, regulating their own business. You understand what I just said? They would be regulating their own business. They will no longer be directors because I think it's a policy. I'm not sure if it's a law or a policy that once you become a minister, you cannot hold a position as a director in any company. So therefore, they will not be directors in Proven, but what they will be are major shareholders in Proven. It is the cabinet that's the principal policy maker in this country. And they will therefore be in a position to make policies that could favor their own business and businesses of their friends and sponsors and supporters, and make policies that would be against other persons, competitors in the same industry. So when you're looking at them being leaders or elected, those persons who are seeking to invest will be looking at Proven as a very possible vehicle for which they can make a lot of money, if only these guys could get elected. And this is perhaps the reason why they go out of their way to make it be known that, they put it on the resume. It's like a resume. And they would not put their political associations, affiliations, and their political achievements out there so upfront unless in their own minds it will be beneficial to their company. Proven. If they believe that it would hurt their company, they would not talk about it. They would talk about everything else, but not that. Right? Therefore, if they are talking about it so much, then it must be because the persons that they are targeting, they expect that they would come and invest in Proven. And why would they have that expectation? They would have that expectation because Jamaica is a highly corrupt country. That these two men were once associated with another company called DBNG, where they make a killing because of their political association with a political party in the 1990s that was government. Now, they are the same ones who are seeking to get hold of Jamaica House. And every person can have an expectation that if they were ever to find themselves in that position, I say expectation, and I'm not telling you that is what they're going to do, because we can't stay here and, I'm no prophetess for sure. But given their background, one would have every reason to believe and expect that if they were to get hold of power, just as they were prepared to use their connections to enrich themselves, People may have a reason to believe that they will use the power to enrich themselves through their companies. And therefore, if they can just buy shares in Proven, them set for life, because they would expect that they would benefit from that corrupt expectation that they may have of these men. And I wonder if that is the reason why it is that Bunting is so prepared to make everybody know, well, I tell you what, let me read what he said in his profile on Proof. Now you will see what I'm talking about. So Peter Bunting is one of 4 co-founders of Proven Management Limited. I believe they started with that Management Limited in 2009 when the man Audley Shaw that they did not trust was the Minister of Finance. So they started then, and then they set up the Proven, what is it called now? It is called Proven Investments Limited. That then became Proven Group Limited. And from there, they have other subsidiaries. They have 2 banks overseas, one in Cayman, one in St. Lucia. They have all sorts of different businesses that they were, that they acquired according to Bunting or according to Proven, and what you call opportunistic investments. And I would call them hustling. You see a way to make a little money and you buy. Nothing wrong with that. That's business, and that's their business style. So here is what Bunting says about himself, or at any rate, Proven has put this out as Bunting's profile. It says Senator Peter Bunting, co-founder and chairman of Proven Management Limited. Proven Management Limited is kind of like the management body for all of the other subsidiaries, including the Proven Group Limited. That's my understanding at any rate. It says Peter Bunting is a co-founder of Proven Group Limited with a successful career in finance that includes co-founding Daring Bunting and Golding Limited, which was acquired by Scotia Group. He currently serves as chairman of Proven Management Limited, Proven Properties Limited, and Roberts Manufacturing Company Limited, or Pinnacle Feeds Limited. Roberts is a manufacturing company in Barbados. I'm not sure where Pinnacle is. In addition to his business ventures, Peter has made significant contribution to public service, currently as leader of opposition business in Jamaica's Senate, and previously as the Minister of National Security and as the General Secretary of the People's National Party. He earned a Bachelor of Engineering, Mechanical Engineering from McGill University, and a Master's in Business Administration from the University of Florida. And that's it for him. So you see, they mention his background, that he's a co-founder of the company, that he chairs several of them, his political career, and then his education, what he has, his education in. Very nice profile. And yes, people will be interested in his educational background. They will be interested in his positions in the company. And of course, now that you mention that he's in politics, what effect might it have on the persons who are investing? They would have reason to believe that it should have some kind of positive effect. Let me read the one for Mark. Mark's own said Mark Golding, co-founder and director, Proven Management Limited. Goes on to say Mark J. Golding is a leading Jamaican commercial attorney at law and a partner in the law firm Hart Muirhead Fatta. He was a founding shareholder and director of Daring Bunting and Golding Limited in 1993 and a founding shareholder and director of Proven Management Limited in 2010. He has also served on the boards of several of Jamaica's leading companies, a founding director of Caribbean Information and Credit Rating Services Limited, very interesting, the first regional ratings agency for the Caribbean, and is the chairman of the Mona Rehab Foundation, a non-profit organization for persons with physical disabilities. Mr. Golding has also had an extensive career in public service. Initially as a member of the Jamaican Senate from 2007 to 2017, serving with distinction as Jamaica's Minister of Justice from 2012 to 2016. He was elected a Member of Parliament for South St. Andrew in November 2017, whereupon he was appointed the opposition spokesperson for finance and planning and has been a leader of opposition in Jamaica's parliament since November 2020. So there you have it for Mark. This is in their business profile for Proven. Now, an investor with money to invest may look at this profile if they're interested and say to themselves, so hold on here now. These guys had no qualms about using up their connections to make a pile of money out of it. So what is likely to happen if they were to take control of the government of Jamaica? Surely I would expect that they would make decisions that would benefit their companies tremendously, especially that they are major shareholders. I am going to examine to see whether it's profitable. Yes, it's making money. And I am sure that if I invest in this company and these guys win, this is one company that will not fail. And all I can look forward to is profits. Share price going up and me selling my shares and making a killing. And therefore, a lot of people will be influenced by this thought or this idea of making a lot of money because of the positions that these guys are in. Now, what exactly though is happening with Proven? It seems to me something very odd is going on. Yes, last year March they lost money. They lost about 15 million in loss, perhaps more than that. And by about August, you see where Christopher Williams, who is one of the co-founders, if I recall right, was saying to the Observer, to the Observer, we are very angry. I don't know what kind of response is that. Williams, according to him, our share price does not deserve to be down 50%. You heard that? Proven that was doing reasonably well. Share price went down by 50% in August. When I took a look at some of the reporting to the Jamaica Stock Exchange, what I saw was that for 2 consecutive years, they were late in submitting their annual reports, and the annual reports were also revised. That can also affect confidence. There were also some resignations from the board and some replacement with other directors. That can also affect share price. Shares, they say, is all about confidence. It's what the people have confidence in, whether or not the prices are going to keep going up. If they have any reason to think that something is happening that could bring the price down, that's when they start selling. That's the fickleness of shares. But the shareholders and the owners of business, it's critical for them to keep the share price at least stable, if not going up all the time, because that investment, if people lose confidence in the shares, that share can plummet and they could lose their shirts. Right? So it's important for them always to ensure that share prices are either stable or going up. And here it is that Christopher Williams is telling us on August 8, 2023, that Proven's share price had fallen by 50%. And Chris Williams was saying that it was not justifiable. But here am I looking on a website. It's called Simply Wall Street Stocks. They do analysis of stocks all over the world, right? Now, I am not saying or vouching for the accuracy of what they have here, but investors will be seeing what I am seeing, and I'm bringing it to your attention. And it's speaking about the financial health of Proven Group. And it says Proven Group has a total shareholder equity of $126.5 million. This is US. And total debt of $341 million, which brings its debt to ratio. And before I go on, you will notice where it says financial health criteria checks. Of the 6 individuals that were analyzing the shares, only 1 saw it in a positive light. All 5 saw it negative. And I'm going to show you why. So again, Proven has a total shareholder equity of $126.5 million and a total debt of $341 million, which brings its debt to equity ratio to 269.5%. Now, you recall when they were talking about the economy of Jamaica and saying that our debt to GDP was 150% and we need to bring it down so that we can have fiscal space to do this, that, and the other. This is showing, if this is correct, that Proven has a debt to equity ratio where its debt is 269.5% of its equity, the shares that the share values that were issued, right? This may not seem healthy, of course, but the company is still making a profit. Now, if you look at what it says here when they're doing their analysis, Proven has cash of 165 million. The equity, of course, the amount of shares that were issued, for which they raised funds, is 126 million. The liabilities were 976, while their assets was 1.1 billion. I can tell you when I did the calculation, that's a difference of about 126 million, and that represented 11%. Somehow that don't sound like it too bad to me. But this is also the reality that the investors will be looking at, and this is what they are seeing, they will be seeing online to affect their decision as to whether to buy shares or sell shares or get rid of the shares right now, because it appears as though the company isn't doing well, or the company will soon not be doing well. They also did what they call risk checks. And they say here, we perform automated risk checks on every company. We flag any failed checks as potential investment risks. A company which passes all our checks, however, is not risk-free. So that's a disclaimer. Not because you pass all of the tests don't mean to say there is not a risk. When you're analyzing Proven Group Limited, the risk checks, they fail. The first one they fail, it says, the question is, are revenue and earnings forecast to grow? According to them, earnings have declined by 29.8% per year over the past 5 years. Earnings have declined by 29.8% over the past 5 years. That would have begun in 2019. And I want you to pay attention to that, because 2019, there was an event that took place in 2019, and we're going to have a look at that briefly to see what, if anything, that may have to do with the situation that the company is in. The next question, are they in a good financial position? They said interest payments are not well covered by earnings. And then they said, do they have a meaningful market capitalization? And they said no. Now, they have all the other indicators were good. And basically what they were saying is that they're still making profits, and the company is fine otherwise, apart from these things. We're back again looking at this precipitous fall in the share price of Proven in August of last year, which the CEO of Proven Group, Chris Williams, said was not justified, despite the fact that the company made losses, despite the fact that there were resignations of directors, and also the fact that the annual reports were late 2 years in a row. He still doesn't think that that should have precipitated such a fall. Perhaps not. But what other events took place last year? You recall that it was just about the time in June when a poll was done, a People's National Party Commission poll. This after the leader of the opposition and the general secretary was all over the country telling people that, playing to the choir. The people were very upset about the salary increases, and they went around and they were doing all sorts of things, talking about it should be rolled back and all that kind of thing. You remember that? Yes. And at that same time, he was doing a poll. Now, the February before that, he was polling 14.7, having dropped from 18% to 14.7 in 6 months. And by the June, when they tried this technique, believing, I suppose, that it would improve Mark's approval rating, when the pollster came out of the field and they broke down the good and very good performance, his performance fell to 12.1%. Now, that must have had some effect on the shares of the company that he's also associated with, especially since they have gone out of their way to make everybody know that these proven directors or shareholders are also into politics and looking forward to being leaders of Jamaica at some point. That ought to have had some effect on the shares. And this could be the reason why, in addition to the other issues, the idea that maybe Mark not going to make it after all. So all of those who are putting money into Proven, thinking that something big may happen if Bunting and Golden become leader of Jamaica, something big might happen for Proven and can make a killing. This now would have blown up in them face. This now would look like Mark look like he can make it 12.1%. Then came the local government elections. The PNP won 5 seats, the JLP won 7, the JLP won, the PNP was up and down the place. Mark Golding himself was up and down the place telling the comrades and everybody in the country that the PNP won, when everybody who understands these things knew that the PNP lost. That deception must have affected the shares of Proven. That deception, a man who is associated with a company. Companies are very fickle, and they're very concerned about people, what they say and what they do. You have to be careful. And he was out there putting out fibs, and it must have affected the shares of the company. This would have been in February. And Proven continues to lose on its share price. It's now down to 10-11 cents per share. Now we come to something very puzzling. We could not understand why, if the PNP and the JLP went to a poll in February, why it was that the PNP found it necessary to run another poll in April. It just never made any sense. They already told the parties base that they won the election and they bought into it, so it could not have been for them. Is it possible, just possible, that the poll was commissioned in order to allay the fears of those shareholders of Proven? The ones who are buying into it because they think they're going to make a killing when Mark and Bunting become Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister. Is it possible? Tell me what you think. Because they actually paid a dividend in August in order to boost the share price, and it failed. And they pay another dividend 6 months later in March, and again it failed. Not only that, but the profitability of the company returned. They made an $18 million profit in March of this year, and still the share price is falling. But there was another great event that took place this year in May, when Mark revealed that he had British citizenship and that he had a passport that did not expire, which meant that he went and renewed the passport of his own volition, which means that at the time when he was nominated, he was disqualified. He's not supposed to be in our parliament. Yet him prims up in the parliament same way. What he has been showing, Mark Golding, is that he has a disposition to be dishonest and deceitful. And that is bound to affect his business interests. And he does have business interests. He's one of the co-founders of Proven. The only reason why he's not a director is because he's a leader of the opposition. Now, if these two men are as brilliant as they want us to believe in business, how it is that they are quite unable to stop the falling in the shares, what it is that they need to do that they are not doing. And if they can't even run a little business that value, how much it value? 1.1 billion. How them going to run a country that has the kind of problems that Jamaica has? In 4 years, they have not brought to our attention any policies, any idea, any vision for this country. No vision for this country. And yet, they fought so hard to put themselves in the position that they are in now. $650 million Jamaican was what was said that Peter Bunting spent in order to wrest control of the People's National Party from Dr. Peter Phillips. 650 million. You think the PNP can't give him back that money? No. So where would he and his funders expect to get that money from? All those proven people you saw was there endorsing them. Where would they expect to get back that 650 million from? From the government of Jamaica. That is their agenda. That has always been their rise agenda. It's all about them and what they can get out of government, because they benefited from government before and now they're going for the whole hog. And their shareholders is hoping that they will get it so that they can get a little something out of it too. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. What is wrong though is what they are doing. And perhaps it is poetic justice that what is happening to their shares in Proven is happening. Because I'm going to tell you now, as long as Mark remains in that position and Bunting remains in that position, that you will never see those shares rise. And they know it. They know it, and so their desperation has increased many folds. They're becoming abusive of people now because they want that election to be called and they want the election to be called, but they are in a mess, especially with Mark and his dual citizenship. He's a sitting duck, waiting for somebody in this society to take him to court and have him removed from our parliament. And if and when that happens, that will be the end of that fairy tale story. And $650 million gone up in smoke. Well, that's all I have to say today. Would you believe I intended this to be no longer than 36 minutes, but man, when I go on, I go on like the Energizer Bunny. I just go on and on and on when I start to talk. Anyway, let me not keep you any longer. I've taken up a lot of your time. I hope you found this video informative. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me if you really believe that these guys went and spent money commissioning polls in order to help to boost the company's share, because I don't know what else they could be doing it for. Do you have your own opinion? I'd love to hear. All right, so remember now, please share the video, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not done so as yet, and leave your comments. I'd love to hear from you and love to hear what you think about my theories, and tell me what are your own theories. I'd love to hear them. All right, so till next time, take very good care of yourselves and walk good.